I never thought a normal Tuesday could turn into something straight out of a nightmare. I was 17, a senior at Westbrook High, and like any other day I'd woken up groggy, chugged down some coffee and sprinted for the bus because of course I was late. The first few hours of school were painfully mundane. Mr. Phillips droning about American history, the occasional phone buzzing under desks, the usual whispers of gossip circulating in the back row. I didn't notice anything strange until lunch, which was when the first oddity happened. It was a regular cafeteria, the smell of fried chicken and greasy pizza hanging in the air, the clatter of trays, the laughter of kids talking about weekend plans. I remember sitting with my best friend Jamie, joking about the upcoming basketball game. Suddenly the lights flickered just once. Everyone paused, glanced around, and then the fluorescent bulb stabilized. We laughed it off. Old wiring, the janitor muttered. The weirdness escalated during fourth period. I was in the chemistry lab mixing a solution for Mr. Simmons's class experiment when the intercom crackled to life. A distorted voice, low and warped, spoke 3 words. "Lockdown now." At first we all froze, assuming it was a drill. But the panic in the students' faces told me it wasn't routine. The principal's voice came seconds later, unconvincing and strangely hurried. "Lockdown. Everyone stay in your classrooms. Repeat, lockdown." Doors slammed, chairs scraped against the linoleum, and suddenly the hallway outside our lab became a place of chaos. Students were screaming, some crying, some whispering prayers under their breath. But what got me wasn't the fear, it was the sound. Low, almost imperceptible at first, a scratching, shuffling noise coming from the hall. Not footsteps. Something heavier. Something that moved without rhythm, without reason. Jamie grabbed my arm. "Do you hear that?" She whispered, eyes wide. I nodded, trying to rationalize it. Janitor? Someone playing a cruel prank? But rationalizations didn't fit when I saw the shadows outside the windows. They weren't just dark figures. They moved wrong. Limbs bending at unnatural angles, twisting, stretching as if they weren't human at all. We were told to lock the door. I slid the lab lock into place, but the handle rattled immediately afterward. Not a light tap, full-on violent shakes. Something was on the other side. I pressed my body against the door, heart hammering, and tried to calm Jamie, who was hyperventilating. "It's just someone trying to scare us," I whispered. But I could hear my own voice cracking. Minutes passed like hours. The scratching and thumping never stopped. Occasionally there were muffled screams, but they were distorted, warped like the sound had been slowed down and then sped up again. Then the lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room, and in that darkness I heard breathing. Not from Jamie, not from any human near me. Breathing deep, wet, and guttural. Something moved in the darkness. I could see it only in flashes. Brief silhouettes against the emergency lights that flickered sporadically. It wasn't entirely solid, more like a shadow that could pass through walls, yet the sound it made when it moved made me certain it had weight, mass, something horribly real. I whispered Jamie's name, shaking her, but she didn't respond. She wasn't asleep. She was staring straight ahead, frozen in some kind of trance. I don't know how long we were trapped. Hours? Minutes? It felt like days. All I know is that eventually the commotion stopped. The emergency lights stabilized, and when someone finally came to unlock the door, the hallway was empty. Silent. Too silent. No students, no teachers, no signs of struggle. Just our classroom, perfectly intact, and a lingering smell, like wet earth and iron that made my stomach twist. We were escorted to the gym, the makeshift gathering point, but the gym was the same. Empty. Rows of chairs set up for assembly were perfectly aligned. No chaos, no bodies, no evidence of anything that had happened. The principal's face was pale, tight-lipped. "There was no lockdown," he said. "Everything was fine. All students accounted for. Nothing unusual reported." My friends and I exchanged looks. Some laughed nervously, trying to shake it off. But I knew what I had seen. I knew what I had heard. And when I got home that evening, I checked my phone. Every video and picture I had taken during the day was corrupted. Photos of my friends sitting at the table were replaced by static. Videos of the hallway had random frames missing, distorted shapes that weren't there when I recorded them. The thing that haunts me most, though, is this. I didn't dream it. I know I didn't. And a week later, a freshman who had been in the cafeteria that day stopped coming to school. She told her parents she couldn't explain what she saw, but she refused to go back. And no one could find her, not even the police. It's been 5 years since that day. I graduated, left Westbrook behind, moved to another state, changed my number. But every time I hear a school alarm, every time I pass a school hallway, I get that same gut-twisting feeling, like something's watching. Like one day it will come back and this time it won't let anyone leave. Because here's the thing, lockdowns aren't supposed to happen for no reason, and the one that happened that day shouldn't have. I've always been curious about abandoned places, the kind of curiosity that's equal parts thrill and danger. When I was 16, I went to Hamilton High, a sprawling old school building with peeling paint and creaky floors. Everyone knew about the Forgotten Wing, a section of the school that had been sealed off after a fire decades ago. Rumors said it was haunted, but most students treated it as nothing more than an urban legend. I thought it was the perfect place for a dare. It started innocently enough. My friends and I were wandering the school after lunch, skipping the last few minutes of class because we were frankly bored. I dared Kyle to sneak into the Forgotten Wing first. He laughed and shoved me lightly. "You're the brave one, so go ahead," he said. And I did. The hallway leading to the old wing was narrow, lined with lockers that were dented, rusted, and tagged with graffiti from decades ago. I had my phone flashlight on, but it barely cut through the thick shadows. The air smelled like damp wood and dust, like the building was exhaling decay. The further I walked, the more I noticed the silence. It wasn't just quiet. It was oppressive. No faint hum of the heating system. No distant chatter from other students, nothing. Just nothing. I reached the door. It was massive. Old oak with a rusted metal handle. It had a small sign, almost illegible. Storage and maintenance, authorized personnel only. I twisted the handle. Surprisingly, it turned. The door creaked open, revealing a long corridor that seemed to stretch forever, walls lined with scorched and peeling paint. The faint outline of burned furniture was visible in some rooms through shattered glass panels. The floorboards groaned under my weight, echoing down the hall like a scream. At first, I joked into my phone, "Hey, hello? Anybody here? Ghosts? Please don't hurt me." My friends laughed from the other side of the door, but I didn't hear them anymore. That was when I realized the hallway was swallowing their voices. I turned around to wave, but the door had slammed shut behind me. I tried it. Locked. Panic started to bubble in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. I took a few steps deeper, the beam of my flashlight revealing old lockers smashed open, books with pages blackened by fire, strange marks scratched into the walls. That's when I heard it, the faintest whisper. "Go away." I froze. "Kyle?" I called, my voice trembling. Silence. The whisper came again, closer but not human. It was hollow, echoing from the walls themselves. I spun around, flashlight sweeping the corridor. Nothing, just darkness, just burned shadows. My rational mind screamed, "It's the wind!" The old building settling. But deep down, I knew better. I pressed forward, trying to find the end of the hallway or a window. Every door I opened led to a room more nightmarish than the last. Charred textbooks scattered across the floor, mirrors cracked in geometric patterns, walls with scratches that looked disturbingly like letters, but I couldn't read them. Then I saw the first one. It was a shadow, human-shaped, crouched against the wall, but wrong. Its limbs were twisted, elbows bent at impossible angles. It didn't move, yet I knew it was watching me. My breath caught and I stumbled backward. When I looked again, it was gone. The hallway stretched empty. I ran. My flashlight bounced wildly across the walls, illuminating charred lockers, shattered windows, and the strange symbols carved into the wooden doors. And then I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, heavy. Not like a person running, but deliberate. I didn't dare look back. The whispers returned, louder now, almost a chant. I swear I heard my own name whispered between the syllables. "Emma, Emma." My heart was pounding in my throat. I reached a stairwell, thinking I could escape back to the main school hallway. But the steps led to nowhere. The staircase twisted unnaturally, as if the building itself had changed its shape. I tried screaming, but my voice was swallowed by the corridor. The walls were closing in, the shadows thickening. Something brushed past my shoulder. A hand? A limb? I didn't stop to find out. I ran until I couldn't feel my legs, until I found another door. I slammed into it, fumbling with the lock. Finally, it gave way, spilling me into a classroom I didn't recognize. The classroom was empty, ordinary, desks neatly aligned, sunlight streaming through the windows. For a second, relief washed over me. But then I noticed something on the blackboard. A single word written in thick black letters that hadn't been there before. Stay. I bolted, throwing open the door, expecting to find the main hallway. But the world had changed. The school looked abandoned, like no one had been there for decades. Paint peeled from the walls, ceiling tiles hung precariously, and every window was cracked or broken. The whispers had become screams echoing from every direction. I ran blindly, turning corner after corner. My flashlight flickered and died. In the darkness, I felt it. Something brushing against my legs, something taller than me breathing hot and foul in my ear. I stumbled, fell, and hit the ground hard. My phone slipped from my hand, screen shattering. I couldn't see it anymore. I was alone, utterly alone, in the forgotten wing. Then I saw the shadows moving. Not one, but dozens coalescing from the walls, floors, ceiling. They weren't solid, but they had mass. They reached for me, stretching impossibly, crawling over each other, forming shapes that were human and not at the same time. I screamed finally, a raw sound that echoed endlessly through the hallways. I ran again. Somewhere in the distance, I found a door leading outside. I threw it open and stumbled into the daylight. The warmth hit me like a punch. I looked back at the school, expecting to see normalcy. But the forgotten wing was gone. Where it should have been, there was only a blank wall, seamless and unbroken. My friends were outside, looking at me like I'd lost my mind. "Where were you?" Kyle asked. "We've been looking for you for hours. I went into the forgotten wing," I said, voice shaking. "No one's been in there for decades," he said. "It's sealed. There's a wall where the entrance should be. I ran home that day, feverish, haunted by the shadows and the whispers. I told my parents and teachers what I saw, but they laughed, called it imagination. And yet, I know what I experienced. I've never returned to that school. I avoid old buildings now, especially ones with do not enter signs. But sometimes at night when the lights are off and the house is silent, I swear I hear whispers from the corner of my room. Stay. And I know deep down that the forgotten wing isn't just in that school. It's in every abandoned corner, every place people forget, waiting for the next curious teenager who thinks a dare is just a dare. I was lucky to get out. Most aren't. And the shadows? They follow. This story has all the elements of creeping horror. Abandoned space, unnatural shadows, twisted geometry, disorientation, and the lingering mystery of the forgotten wing. It's fully structured for narration with a terrifying slow descent into dread. I'll never forget the night it all went wrong at Ridgewood High. I was a junior, 16 years old, and staying late for the student newspaper. The school wasn't busy that evening, just me, the janitor, and Mr. Clark, the newspaper advisor. We were wrapping up the final edits for the monthly issue when I realized the clock read 10:42 p.m. Normally, the doors were locked by 9:30, and security would patrol every 30 minutes. But something felt off. The hallway was too quiet, sterile, almost unreal. I remember glancing at the main entrance and seeing the big glass doors slightly ajar. I frowned. Maybe the janitor had forgotten to lock up, I thought. I made my way to the front, trying to reassure myself, but as I passed the trophy case, I froze. Reflected in the glass was a figure behind me. Not Mr. Clark. A silhouette of someone tall, hunched with unnaturally long arms. I spun around, heart hammering, but the hallway was empty. I laughed nervously. Great, Emma. Seeing things again. I turned back to the doors, and the figure was there again, this time closer. I could see the outline more clearly. Limbs bending at strange angles, a head that tilted unnaturally like it was scanning me from an impossible perspective. My stomach turned to ice. I ran back to the newspaper office, but the door slammed shut behind me. Mr. Clark looked up. "Emma, you okay?" His face was pale. I thought I saw someone," I stammered. He shook his head. "You've been staring at screens too long. Come on, let's finish up." But the feeling of being watched didn't go away. I kept glancing at the hallway window from the office, and each time I did, I thought I saw movement, shadows that shouldn't exist. Around 11:15 p.m., the lights flickered. Then the emergency lights kicked in, casting the school in an eerie reddish glow. The hum of the fluorescent bulbs seemed distorted, stretched. I was working on an article, trying to ignore it, when I heard it. The first sound. A knock. Not the normal knock of someone tapping on a door. This one was slow, deliberate, almost like fingernails dragging across wood. "Knock! Knock!" I froze, every instinct screaming at me. Mr. Clark hadn't noticed. The sound came again from the hallway outside the office. "Knock! Knock!" I realized I wasn't imagining it. I held my breath, peeking through the blinds. Nothing, just shadows. but shadows that moved. Quick, sharp, almost jerky. I whispered to Mr. Clark, trying to stay calm. "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" he said. I opened the office door a crack. The hallway was empty, but I swear I saw something flicker at the end. White, almost translucent, like a corpse wrapped in shadow. I blinked and it was gone. Panic rose. I knew I should call someone, but my phone was dead. I had left it in my locker. And then the knocks came again, this time on the office door. Bang, bang, bang. The sound reverberated through the hallway. I pressed my back against the wall and the knocking stopped. Dead silence, then I heard breathing. Heavy, wet, shallow. Not Mr. Clark's, not mine. It was coming from the hallway, moving closer. My blood ran cold. The shadows outside the office window twisted, bending around corners, pooling into forms that seemed to stretch toward me. I grabbed Mr. Clark's arm. "We need to leave now," he frowned. "Emma, calm down. Nothing's—" The door slammed open before he could finish, and a chill wind blew through the office. I screamed. And then I saw it fully for the first time. It wasn't human. Its limbs were impossibly long, each movement unnatural. Its face, I can't describe it without losing my mind. Hollow eyes that reflected nothing. A mouth that stretched wider than physics should allow. Teeth jagged and uneven. And it was smiling. A slow, terrible smile as it lunged. I bolted past Mr. Clark. He didn't move. He didn't scream. I ran down the main hallway, the creature in pursuit, but whenever I looked back, it was gone. The emergency lights flickered, shadows dancing across the walls, taunting me. I felt it watching me, always just at the edge of my vision. I reached the gym. Doors locked. Windows barred. My breathing was ragged. I could hear whispers now, almost intelligible. "You stayed. You stayed. You stayed." My stomach knotted. The whispers grew louder, echoing off the walls, bouncing in impossible ways. Then I realized something. Every door I had tried before had led nowhere, or opened into empty rooms. This wasn't just a school, it was a trap. It was alive. The building itself was changing, warping, twisting corridors into mazes. The creature followed, always at the periphery. I remember trying to hide in a supply closet, door barely closing, praying it wouldn't find me. The scratching came then, the nails dragging over metal. It rattled the door violently. I held my breath until I thought my lungs would explode. Hours, or maybe minutes, I can't tell, passed. Then silence. Dead absolute silence. I crawled out, shaking, and the school seemed normal. Lights working, doors locked, walls ordinary. The janitor appeared in the hallway. "Emma, what are you doing here? We locked up hours ago. Someone was here," I shouted, voice trembling. He frowned. "You've been in the office all night. Mr. Clark already left. Go home." I didn't argue, I ran. I didn't sleep for days. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And every so often when I'm alone, I hear it again, the slow knocks, the wet breathing, the whisper. "You stayed." I don't know why it targets students, why it chooses nights like that. But one thing is certain. Ridgewood High isn't safe after hours. And if the doors aren't locked, if anyone stays too long, it comes for you. Even now, years later, I can't walk past that school without feeling eyes on me. Because it remembers, it waits. And I know if I ever return, it will be ready. This final story emphasizes after-hours dread, the malevolent presence that manipulates the school, and the personalized, terrifying chase. Perfect for narrations with suspense, disorientation, and a chilling ending.